It is April 13th, 2002. This is class number 4 for multi-dwelling units. And we're going to talk about positive denial. We're going to talk about emergency toilets, have a general discussion, just kind of want to hear where you guys are and how you're doing. These are the topics we've discussed before, and that's kind of what I'd like to keep it centered on, unless you have other, anything else you want to talk about. And then power outage lights if we get to it. It's a really small segment. Positive denial. I'm going to stop sharing because this is really just me and how I feel about this. I didn't make this this positive denial. I heard this a while back, and it makes perfect sense for me. And it really describes how I view disaster preparedness. You would think that I lay in bed worrying about stuff all the time, and I absolutely do not. I am not. A, I'm not a worrier. B, I believe I have done as much as I need to do to increase my odds of survival and my family being okay. So I have done as much preparedness work as I'm probably ever going to do, and I probably won't do any more. I don't think about this all the time. And the reason this comes up is I get lots of questions about where am I supposed to put my stuff? If I'm going to assemble all this stuff, this water, this food, camping gear, extra batteries, whatever else, extra medications, where should I store it? I got to make sure that I put it in the right place in my house so that I can get access to it if there's a disaster, an earthquake, and my home is really a mess. And unfortunately, there's no right answer. There are a lot of good answers, but there's no one right answer. I'm not an architect. I'm not a structural engineer. I can't tell you what part of your house is going to be the safest. In general, I tell people close to a door kind of makes sense. Garages are they're typically fairly safe during disasters. And when I say garage, I'm talking about next to a single family home made out of wood. That's why they do well, because wood kind of does this in an earthquake. It tends to bend and give. You won't be able to get your garage door open, but you can always hack away at your door and get into the garage somehow. So garages, kind of make sense, but then they get really hot in the summer and really cold in the winter. So there's not one best answer about where to keep stuff. So what I hear from people is just this whirling around in their head, and they really want the right answer. Just tell me what to do, Ann. Tell me what I need to buy. Tell me where I need to put it. Tell me how much of everything I need to get. And that is just that's not how I approach it. I'm lucky I have a basement, and we also went to the expense of retrofitting our house. So I have stuff in the basement. I also have stuff in the closet by the front door. Positive denial in my head just means doing what you need to do and then forget about it. I do talk with this stuff with my family. We go over our plan every once in a while because things change. Like my son isn't going to the same college he used to be going to, that kind of stuff. But basically, I put everything away and I just don't touch it again. The picture on the left, this is my water. So this is down in my basement. These are just plastic shelves. I have them a bunch of them crammed together. But they're actually not secured to the walls, which is a really bad idea. This is the water that I have. I counted it up today. It's 36 gallons. This is just duct tape that I have put around the front of the shelves just to keep the water from bouncing off and hitting the ground. And I have bought this water over the past 8 years. The oldest is 8 years old, and the least old is probably 4 years old. I bought it, I put it away. I'm never going to think about it again. This is our pee and poo bucket up at the top there, and we'll talk about that tonight. The picture on the right, this is another thing that, again, just made me feel good for my house, my family. We're big wine drinkers in the Forrest family, and this thing is bolted to the wall, and it does have locks on it. That's about as much as we've done. There are tons of things you could do in your house to make your house more resilient, and that is completely up to you. But I decided a while back, I'm not going to lock all of my kitchen cabinets. I'm not going to put a special lock on there so that my dishes don't hit the ground during an earthquake. I can live without my dishes. There's nothing of great value in my kitchen cabinets. It's going to be a mess to clean up. I get it, but I don't want the everyday hassle of living in a really earthquake resistant home. So I would just encourage you to do what makes sense for your family, get it done, and then kind of stop thinking about it. Real quick, let me talk about some other things I have done. Like I said, we do have a plan in our family. We talk about it every once in a while about how we would get back together on like a typical Thursday afternoon or something like that, because my family tends to be scattered. Water, like I said, I bought it starting 8 years ago and I haven't touched it, and I don't plan on touching it. Emergency toilet is super important, and we'll talk about that tonight. I'm going to rely on my camping gear, just like, a lot of folks in Seattle have camping gear, thankfully. I do have a rapid exit bag. That's what I call it. It is for medical emergencies, as in I'm leaving the house and I'm either in the back of an ambulance or I'm in the front seat of an ambulance and somebody in my family's in the back. So I have a to-go bag. It's just a backpack. And I can talk about that some other time, but it's for medical emergencies or fire. If I happen to leave the house out the front door, I'm going to grab this bag. It is a small backpack and it's got stuff in there that would make that time less terrible. What has made me feel very, very comfortable is that I have taken all of my key paperwork and the photos that are very important to me, and I have saved them to the cloud. That brings me a great deal of comfort that as long as I can survive an earthquake, I will be okay. I'm not losing anything of huge value. As long as myself and my family members are okay, and I got my photos, I'm good. And then I put freeze-dried food at the very bottom because honestly, I think for me, it's the least important. I don't believe that food's going to be our biggest issue after a disaster. I believe water is going to be a huge, huge issue. I personally have enough food in my house to probably last for 3 months without even blinking. It just seems like we accumulate food. I know not all households are like that, but I'm not super worried about food because I just know we have a lot of food in the house. So these are the preparations I've done in my house. It did not take me very long, and I honestly, other than teaching this all the time, I really don't worry about this stuff. Let's talk about emergency toilets. Sanitation failure. In the office where I volunteer, the Office of Emergency Management, they jokingly call me Ann the Can because I am way concerned. If there's anything I'm stressed about with as far as disasters go, it is sanitation. It is being able to pee and poo after a disaster. Because we know from other places that have had earthquakes, sanitation failure is immediate. The water lines and the sewer lines break during the earthquake, and the fix is incredibly long-term. It is weeks to months to years to get all those pipes, those sewer pipes in the ground fixed. So it happens immediately. It impacts every single human being on this planet, and it doesn't get fixed right away. So big issue for me, big concern. This is guidance from the city. They want you to double bag your waste. Store it safely outside in a designated bin. That can be a compost bin, any kind of bin, it doesn't matter. At the beginning of the recovery period, you as a housing unit, you want to designate one bin as this is where the pee and poo goes, because they don't want you mixing it with other stuff. They don't want compost in with it. They don't want regular trash in it. They want it to be only pee and poo. And the reason for that is once they get around to dumping it, once they get around to picking it up, they're going to dispose of it probably differently. And there's an issue with the garbage trucks, because typically garbage trucks kind of compact things as they pick stuff up. Well, you don't want to compact plastic bags full of pee and poo because it will just squirt out the bottom of the truck. Don't mix it with other stuff. The city's guidance is that they will pick it up eventually. It will be a while, but they will pick it up. That is their plan. You do not bury your poo or your pee. Well, you don't bury your poo and you don't burn it. A lot of people think that that's the way to go. It is not. It is the city's guidance that we don't do that. We live way too close to bodies of water to do that. So our issues for sanitation failure, especially for you guys in the multi-dwelling units, is storage space. Where do you put this stuff? And will you have enough plastic bags? everybody's going to run out of plastic bags. That's not a you issue. We're all going to need plastic bags, and we're all going to struggle with storage space. Where do you put all this? So here's an option. You can use your own toilet. This happens to be one of the toilets in my house. Line it with 2 plastic bags, sit down, do your business, bag it up, take it outside. Something to think about is grab a 13-gallon trash bag. These aren't special bags. They're just regular old trash bags, and see if it'll actually fit on your toilet. They don't fit very well on this toilet. I faked it, but this toilet is very long and skinny, and the bags just do not fit. So make sure that whatever bag you're stocking up on will actually fit your toilet. So that's one option, is just to do it in your house, but don't flush. You're just going to bag everything up in plastic bags. The smell of our human waste comes mostly from mixing pee and poo. Together, those two are terrible. And actually, pee is much smellier than poo is. Our poo is just like dog's poo, where after it's sat out for a while and kind of dried up, it barely stinks at all. Ours does the same exact thing. So another option, which is what I'm going to talk about tonight, is called the twin bucket toilet. And I'm going to show this video.
Hi, I'm Ann Forrest, and I would like to talk to you about sanitation after big disasters. So if we have a large earthquake, when the ground shakes, pipes break. Remember that, when the ground shakes, pipes break. And if sewer pipes break or water pipes break, we are not going to be able to use our toilets like normal. And that is very, very common and probably will happen. The pipes in the ground need some work. Every time they're dug up for some kind of repair, the city puts back in much more resilient pipe. But to pull all those out and replace them all is just too large of a job for the city to take on at one time. So we are replacing them piecemeal. So the problem with not having sewer pipes and not having water pipes that are working is that drinking water is super important, and also sanitation is really important. It's something that is immediate. You're going to need to go to the bathroom the first day after the earthquake, and it's a long-term solution. We can't pull up all those pipes and put down new ones overnight. So it will be days to weeks before any of us have a better sanitation system. So this is something that you and your family need to think about how you're going to handle it at home. And the system I want to talk to you about is the twin bucket toilet system. So just like the name, twin buckets. If your household is coordinated enough to split up these two products, then you're in good shape. And the value of splitting them up is you can decrease the amount you have to store. Because again, this is a long-term problem. You're going to have to store the byproducts of our human bodies for a long time. So let's talk about urine. This one's the simple one. Urine is mostly water and mostly sterile. What you can do is pee in the bucket and throw it outside. Men, you can just go outside and pee on the ground. But if you'd like to sit down, this is how you do it. This is a pool noodle, or pipe installation works really well. A long noodle, you're going to cut it in half, and you're going to make sure that there's a slit down the length side, just one side of it. This goes around the lip of the bucket, and it cushions it so that you're not sitting on the lip of a bucket. So this is your urine bucket, your pee bucket. It is good to go just like it is. So you sit down, you do your business, you pee into here. The toilet paper goes into the poo bucket. So we'll talk about that in a second. If you have any water that you're not planning on drinking, like it's coming out of a pool or a hot tub or something like that, you know that you cannot get it clean enough to drink, then add some water to this, swish it around, and throw it out on the ground. This will not hurt anything. So that's how you handle pee. This is the stuff we really are concerned about after big disasters. This is what makes people sick. This is where the pathogens are. So we are really, really concerned about containing this and keeping people healthy after a large disaster. So let's talk about how to do that. Again, pool noodle. You're going to cushion the rim. And for this one, we're going to put 2 bags over it. These are 2 plastic bags, just regular 13-gallon trash bags, kitchen trash bags. A 13-gallon bag fits really well inside a 5-gallon bucket. So I have 2 of them. I'm going to put it over the pool noodle just to make sure that stays nice and clean. And then I'm ready to go. So family members are going to sit down. They're going to use this poo bucket. They're going to sanitize their hands afterwards because we want everybody to stay nice and healthy. After every time you use these 2 plastic bags, you're going to put something on top. And this isn't something you need to store. You don't need to buy this stuff. You'll be able to figure out what you can use after a disaster. So some examples are kitty litter, sand, ashes, dirt, flour, a cake mix you're never going to make, baking soda, dry laundry detergent, anything like that. Just sprinkle it over the top. The reason for that is you're trying to dry out the poo and you're trying to keep down the smell. So there's nothing fancy about it. You're just trying to help the system be a little less icky. So family member sits down, does their business, sprinkles a little bit over the top, and you can use these 2 bags for a while, whether it's 1 day or 3 days, depending on the size of your family. You can use these 2 bags for a while so you won't run out, which is a really good part. So once you think this is full enough, and that's about halfway, you want to take both bags out. You're going to squeeze out all the air because, again, this system is really good because it reduces the amount that you have to store. So squeeze out all the air, tie it off, and you're going to put it outside. You're going to put it out in a compost bin, a recycle bin, your regular trash can, whatever you have where you can keep it safe from kids and rodents. So the goal is to put this outside and the city will pick it up eventually. That is the guidance to us. They will pick it up eventually. So the other things I have in the twin bucket toilet besides hand sanitizer and those plastic bags, disinfecting wipes. You want to keep this whole system really clean and keep your family healthy. Disposable gloves are a nice idea. Toilet paper, maybe some feminine hygiene products if you want to store those in here. Another option is to buy a toilet seat cover. These can be found in camping stores. This is meant to fit on a 5-gallon bucket, so it works really well. One of the difficult things I think is that once you snap it onto one of these buckets, it's a little difficult to get off. So you need some decent hand strength, and it might rip the plastic bags, but things like this are available if you're interested. So that's the end of the twin bucket toilet demonstration.
Any questions about the video?
You indicated if you do the 2 bucket thing and collect urine in a separate bucket, you can just toss it. What do you recommend in a high-rise building?
Yeah, I would definitely look for a place now where you can throw the urine. If there's any kind of depression, we have swales where runoff water it's depressed, so the water will collect there and then drain into the soil instead of running off. Anything like that would be great. And there's no reason why you can't put it on concrete, on asphalt, on the street. There's no reason not to. Until we have better guidance from the city, that's kind of it. They are moving to a twin bucket toilet system like any day now. The current guidance they have is not the twin bucket toilet system, but they are coming out. In fact, I'm working with Seattle Public Utilities to create something that we can translate into different languages. I'm glad you said something about kitty litter because I just learned this the other day, and it kills me that I didn't think of this already. Kitty litter is not something you should use because it turns to concrete. If it gets wet, it turns into concrete. And so you're trying to make this system easier, and it almost seems like you're making your life harder by, especially if you pee and poo in the same plastic bag and then you throw kitty litter in there, it's going to soak up all the urine and it turns into heavy concrete. And now you've got a bag of heavy concrete that you've got to dispose of and hope it doesn't bust on the way, outside or whatever. So yeah, I'm taking kitty litter off of all my handouts because of that. I don't think it would hurt it to sprinkle on top of poo because poo is not that wet. But again, if there's much moisture at all, you've just made your life harder, not easier.
Okay, thank you.
So I would stay away from kitty litter.
No,
And I
have a huge
this
bag,
is
but
yes,
but thanks for letting
like
me
I
know.
said, find somebody with a
Yeah.
cat.
Yeah, find cats. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't encourage people to buy anything for this purpose because I think we just have stuff around our house that could be used. Like I don't have kitty litter, but I also have access to dirt. But I have like dried laundry soap, and I have a cake mix I'll never use, and flour, and sugar. It doesn't matter what you put on it, just anything to kind of help it dry out a little bit. I wouldn't bother with storing much as far as what you're going to cover on your, put over your poo. And it's really not going to take that much. I wanted to point out the chair, the folding chair with the seat in it. I think that is genius because it folds up. Like, talk about a space saver, and it would be super comfortable, super easy to keep clean. I can tell you the folks in Portland are really, really concerned about the pool noodles. They call them absorbent. They're not absorbent, but they are hard to keep clean because of all the nooks and crannies. So they are really encouraging folks they are telling people to buy the toilet seats. I'm not sure how the city of Seattle is going to come down on that. So think, if you can afford the toilet seat, the fancy toilet seat camping kind of thing, it's a better idea because you can keep it cleaner. But they are expensive, and frankly, they are hard to get off of a bucket after you put it on there. Unless somebody else has another brand. I've only bought one brand and it was difficult. And so I use it as a demo, but I don't know that we'll ever actually use it.
How do they get the hole in the folding chair?
I'm guessing like a jigsaw with a metal blade. I don't know. It's pretty cool though, huh? Christina said this thing also folds down really, really as slim as a folding chair. Actually, I'm going to stop sharing, and I want to hear what you guys are thinking about. Not everybody in your buildings is going to have a twin bucket toilet or even a 5-gallon bucket. They can make one. I'd like to hear what you guys think.
So that means, 15 floors of, the double toilets, et cetera. And that makes sense.
You could use the trash room.
Right. And then
Yes.
people could do that. Yes, they could do that in the trash room. And then
Yeah.
somebody on each floor just gets, it's like, put it on your balconies. Because for us, where we're going to have to put it is on our balconies.
Water resistant.
Why
Yeah.
wouldn't you walk it? Are you talking about the poo or the pee?
The poo.
Okay.
If we've got a store for the long term, that it would go on people's balconies probably.
Okay. Do you not
Um,
have any like big trash bins downstairs?
We do, but when you're dealing with 100 to 200 people, they're going to get full really quickly, and they're very different than the kind of trash bins you use. I mean, if they're like, so we've got compost bins, but that's not what the city is going to want to have us put that in.
Got it.
Plus,
Okay.
you're talking about walking it down 18 or 19 flights of stairs and then back up 18 or 19 flights of stairs to get back to your
Right.
apartment if you're near the upper floors of the building.
I think storing it on the balconies makes sense. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. There's a woman that does a presentation, and I'll see if I can't send it, if I can find the recording and send it to you guys. She's big in Portland. She's big on sanitation and keeping folks healthy. She's actually a family practice, internal medicine. She was some kind of physician and really got interested in the idea of more people potentially dying from dysentery than from the disaster, from the actual earthquake. It's that getting sick afterwards. And you've got diarrhea and you're throwing up, and there's not a hospital to be found, and they're certainly not going to take you if if you're not that sick. So and especially it'll be the very, very young and the very, very old, the two extremes. Those are the folks that are going to be impacted the most. So her suggestion, and I just love it, is you treat the people that are keeping that area, the trash room or whatever you're going to call it, you treat those people like gold. And whoever volunteers to keep that area clean, you give them as much support as you possibly can. And you make that a very important job, because it will save lives, and they need to know that. This is not the job you give to the slacker, because people are going to get sick. Keeping ourselves from getting ill from fecal-borne diseases is going to be really important after a disaster. The city will push this information out, almost immediately.
Sure.
I don't know what that that messaging actually looks like. Telling people over a tweet or Alert Seattle about how to do the twin bucket toilet system that's not a simple message. You can't do that in 25 characters or whatever. So it's going to be interesting. Maybe you print up flyers and, you could distribute them now, or you could just hang on to them and distribute them after the disaster. Like, this is how you handle this stuff, guys. I know you didn't figure this out before, but this is how you do it now. Or figure out what your guidance is and print that up. Oh, that's a good idea. Elevator flyers. Okay.
Yeah, and at the potlucks,
Yeah.
we'll have water things to show people buy water like this. And the toilet to say, here are a couple different options. And if you really want to be comfy and in private, you might want your own personal one. Otherwise,
Right.
share.
Right.
All kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah. And tell them to pack any other gear they have. Tell them to pack it in the 5-gallon buckets. They're great for storage as well as, toilets. Yeah, you put out 2 buckets, one that says pee and one that says poo on it, on a table. People will start asking questions. They're very eye-catching.
You can
Go ahead.
probably use the pee bucket for other gray water that you generate, washing your face or
Sure.
whatever,
Yeah.
brushing
I
your
mean-
teeth.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but you're right. Real quick, power outage lights. Maybe Enzo doesn't have a need for this. 7001 probably does because it's a little bit older building, but there are lights that will turn on when your power goes off. A great place for these is any place where if you were caught at night and the light and the power went out, you would have a hard time getting out of. So for me, I have a couple of these down in my basement. I also have them in my hallway, places that don't have windows and that without a light, I'm going to be struggling to get out of there. So they sense when the power is off and they turn on. The 2 that I'm showing there, they're super common. You can get them at Ace Hardware's, Lowe's, Home Depot, all kinds of places. You can order them on Amazon. These 2 you can pull out of the wall and they become a flashlight so that then you're winding your way out of your basement or hallway or whatever. So I just want to mention that these things are available. This is a light bulb, special light bulb that senses when there's no more power going to that lamp, whether you have it off or on, and turns on. So there's some kind of battery system in there. And then here's another one that is actually hardwired. And again, it has a sensor that says, oh, the power to the building went out. I'm going to turn on. So just wanted to let you know that those are available. They're not super expensive. Go ahead, Chris.